Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terence from GSMA, heading the APAC 5G industry community. So welcome to join our another manufacturing interest group activity powered by the community. So this workshop is about how 5G standalone network optimizing manufacturing and productivity. So welcome to post your question in the Q&A boxes as we try to answer you online or follow up offline with our speaker. So the workshop also provide simultaneous translation on Mandarin. So you can select the Chinese channel in the interpretation button. So today we have 2-hour content with a quick lineup of speakers from around the world, including APAC, Europe, and also American. So after my quick opening, we will have our first speaker from Singapore, IMDA. As you know, Singapore is the first country with national 5G standalone network. So David will talk about how, as a government perspective, how IMDA developed a 5G regional innovation hub. And then next, we have a mobile operator, Singtel. So Marco will talk about how they support operator in advanced manufacturing facility. And the next keynote will be a government agency, Advanced with Manufacturing and Technology Center. So Ching Long will talk about how public-private partnership translate research to 5G industry application. And then another keynote will be delivered by Sin Sung Group, Liu Liu, which is a SI on a manufacturing. So Neil will talk about advanced manufacturing in today scenario and also tomorrow. And then final keynote will be delivered by Qualcomm, Fatif Unapana. He is a very good experience on a advanced factory from Bosch Resworth industrial 5G factory. So this factory already trialing, adopting advanced 5G feature in SA network, including time-sensitive network features and also precise positioning for AGV. And then we have a panel with a very good line of from government, engineering firm, ST Engineering, Sebastian, and also Huawei from David, and also joined by Qualcomm again. So we will discuss how we accelerate digital transformation in policy, technology, and ecosystem. So let's start. In case you are first new about GSMA, we are actually represent Global Industry Association. We have a member all around the world, over 200 market, over 1,000. So we work very closely with government and mobile operator and also industry member to drive industry program that benefit for digital economy. So every year, GSMA also hosts very large industry leading conference, MWC. So the coming one is at Barcelona, end of February. And then we also have MWC at Shanghai around end of June, and also Las Vegas and Africa. So in this region, APAC, we also host a regional conference, M360, around September. So welcome to join us. Regarding to the commercialization of 5G, as end of Q3 last year, there are already over 200 mobile operator roll out 5G in more than 83 market. In region APAC, we also have more than 17 mobile operator roll out 5G. Just end of the last year, we also have India rolling out 5G in a very big scale. So 5G have a huge opportunity, but in the region APAC is very fragmented. So our purpose of this community is to support industry and enterprise to accelerating the adaptation of this new technology. Our vision is to strengthen operator, mobile operator, and industry partnership So that's why we work with government across different market, including IMDA today, who is also our contributor member. So we formed together some industry interest group in manufacturing, logistics, port and transportation, and healthcare in last year. This year, we are also forming a new interest group, including energy, mine, utility, and also smart city and public sector. So we already produce a lot of good content, resources. You can find it in our website. So we already did more than 10 industry workshops, physically and virtually. And I think the good thing is we accumulate a very big ecosystem, more than 700 organizations across 60 markets, which including enterprises and government department who will use 5G technology, and of course our telecom and ICT ecosystem, which can supply the solution. We of course also produce a lot of case study. We support government, some mobile operator, and also industry alliance to form the local alliance to drive the ecosystem development. So welcome to join us for free. And of course, you can access to our resources. The very good of you, the very best of the member. Of course, you guys will get more opportunity for exposure, business opportunity as well. So regarding to our timeline, this year we will focus to building the alliance for 5G scaling. So that's why we have already worked out for the whole year plan in order to support the community to growth and scaling. So after this event, after this webinar and Barcelona, so up to September, we already have a very full schedule. We will have different topic, different interest group focus, virtually and physically. Welcome to join us. So for Barcelona, as I mentioned, we will have a lot of activity there, talking about over, we expect will be around 80,000 people at least. So our community will support a 5G Alliance roundtable with participation from APAC government, agency, industry association, mobile operator ecosystem payer, and also global industry association in manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, and drones. Besides this, we also have a lot of other activity which is focused on different topics like manufacturing summit, smart mobility, 5G IoT, 5G future, security, and also some very large exhibition. So there are lists of some of this activity relevant for 5G IoT. So just so you can definitely come to visit and networking with us. So back to today's topic about 5G SA. So 5G standalone commercialization is ongoing. So as of last year quarter three, actually there are 31 mobile operator roll out 5G in SA network. And I think the good news is half of this 5G SA network is in APAC region. So we are leading in terms of the number of SA network rollout. I think the good side is we see that there are also over 123 operators in more than 55 markets are already launched or intend to launch 5G SA network. So the main differences between non-SA and SA, of course, is so non-SA, non-standalone network is still connecting to the 4G core network, while the 5G is the 5G base station is directly connected to the very new 5G core network. So in very simple term, NSA is just like adding a solid state hard drive into an old computer, which can improve the system performance, of course. But while SA is like replacing it with a completely new computer that has a new technology and optimized performance. So SG as a 5G core network, which is using a service-based architecture for scalability and flexibility. So it means that it can deliver very low latency, offer very low latency, and also massive machine type communication in a much better performance, down to single millisecond for latency, and also for the density of the connectivity, it can up to 1 million per square, 1 million devices per every square kilometer. So as you can expect in the industrial use case, it will be very powerful. It can allow a lot of sensors, wireless sensor device to cover the whole area, and also the machine that can allow a lot of remote control, management of the access, which also, of course, a lot of data can be uploaded for predictive maintenance. It also can allow the mobility using for robotic AGV, and of course, automate a lot of process and factory execution, coordination of robot, for example. So I think a lot of use case you'll be here very soon. So now let me introduce our first keynote speaker, David Koo, domain lead from of the communication and connectivity department in IMDA. David, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Terence. Just let me share my screen.
Yes, you can turn on your camera and also share your slide.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. So good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone on board. And it's great to be on this call. And thanks for the invite, Terence, and my colleagues on this call as well. So when Terence asked me whether we could share a little bit about what Singapore has done to take us through to 5G standalone, I thought I'd just put through a very simple deck in terms of our journey from conception to where we are today. And I'll share some of the programs we have in place, right? So let me just take you through that. Okay, so I'll start off by just sharing with you a little bit of our approach, how we did things, what were some of the first steps we did, and then close off with some actual use cases which we have done, specific to manufacturing, some not in the manufacturing space as well, and some of the next steps for IMDA. For those of you who are new to IMDA, IMDA is basically responsible to drive digital transformation within the enterprise market in Singapore. And we've got 3 levers within IMDA. One is within human capital. We look at that as well. We also look at the regulation side of things. And today we'll focus on the industry adoption. So when we started this 5G back in 2019, let me get back. Yeah. So when we started this program back in 2019, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, right? And we've got a framework which we all work towards. And if you can see here, it simplistically just talks about creating the awareness, getting the right ecosystem in play, having the right skill sets available, and making sure that the right demand is there, right? So you really match the demand and supply together. Then once we have a little bit of that, we work very closely with my colleagues here, some of the MNOs you see on board the call today, some of the tech solution partners we see on board today, to see what technology is best applied to which specific industry segment. And I know today we'll focus on manufacturing, but IMD has got a fairly good breadth of coverage of our 5G use cases across all sectors as well. Then obviously we've got some levers in terms of how do we defray the cost of 5G adoption, right? And obviously if we're going to defray the cost of 5G adoption, IMD has got some grant levers which we can apply. And we look at not just any project which we would kind of support. We look at projects which are accretive in nature and projects which have the ability to be repeatable across that segment itself. And then lastly, projects which we kind of support, we also make sure that the road to success is there. There are KPIs which we measure against that. And we pulled in the breadth of the industry expertise to make that happen. So a little bit about our 5G journey. As I mentioned, we started back in 2019, but we started with what we call just 5G trials. And I'll talk a bit about some of the trials coming up, but none of these trials were commercial in nature. It wasn't for a production deployment. It was for both supply and demand to understand the specific use cases which 5G could best be applied to understand some of the technical challenges and understand the fit for purpose use of 5G, right? As we all know, with Wi-Fi 6 around, how we deploy 5G has to be calculated and make sure that it actually is the best use of that technology. We looked at several areas in our 5G trials, covering urban mobility, smart estates, and Industry 4.0 as well, right down to maritime operations. Right? That program was funded by the government, and we had 40 million set aside for it. That has since completed, and we had 7 trial use cases which kind of adopted that program, and I'll share that later. What's interesting now is we've gone from trials to commercialization. And what that means here is that in 2021, after going through those trials and having certain test beds in place, we felt it was the right time to now take what we have learned and actually deploy that for commercial adoption. And that's the second tranche of program which the government has set aside. Again, we have put aside 30 million, where we would fund certain 5G adoption within the enterprise space. And we would look at this cost as a way to defray the initial emerging tech adoption. We know that early adopters of tech obviously pay a higher price, and we wanted to make sure that adopting that technology doesn't set the company back. All right. Specifically within the adoption phase, we looked at 3 broad domains. All right. One within IoT and robotics, where 5G plays a significant role in that. We looked at how we can drive intelligent analytics. And lastly, we looked at AR, VR. And these 3 domains broadly came out of the trials which we did. Right. So if there's an applicant who is looking at applying for this grant program, they would need to meet at least one of these 3 domains. So a little bit about our trials. So when we did our trials back in 2019, I mentioned we had 7 trials, right? And if you look broadly at those cases, we have trials which span across land, air, and sea for different reasons. Obviously, we know 5G propagation across land, across air, and across sea have different characteristics. So we selected trials across the broad range so we understand what is needed if we were to deploy this commercially. We also wanted to make sure that the trials which we executed allowed us to understand not just the enterprise space, but also what does it mean from a consumer and angle of things, right? So if you look at the trials we have listed here, we've got enterprises like the ports who adopted the trials. We have IBM's Industry 4.0 program with Samsung in the manufacturing space, we adopted this trial. And we've got the construction logistics space also adopting these trials. And from the consumer end, we were fortunate enough, Razer being home based in Singapore, they actually adopted this trial to understand millimeter wave propagation, not just from a mobile cloud gaming perspective, but also from how the peripheral devices would need to be bolted on to mobile handsets if they're going to use millimeter wave for gaming, right? Very interesting. One caveat to that I must mention is that for millimeter wave, Singapore is still on non-standalone NSA, right? The rest is on SA already today. Now for tranche 2 commercialization engagements, we started this. This was something we did early last year, back in June, and with our partner Singtel. We were involved in the deployment of live broadcasting using Singtel's 5G network, Singapore motocross at Sentosa Beach. We brought together our solution partners in this case, which we have worked with along our Tranche 2 commercial engagements, and Singtel having very good coverage here at Sentosa, we thought it would be ideal to do this. For those of you who are very familiar with the broadcasting space, you know that to do a live broadcast of such events, usually they would lay cables all around the beach for this motocross event. And the laying of such cables is not only costly, but it's also inflexible, right? So one of the use cases here was the fact that, if we could somehow broadcast the whole event using mobile handsets and using 5G, we would move away from having to lay those cables and would have the flexibility of actually positioning the cameras, not dynamically, but by choice, if there was a need to capture different angles. So in this scenario, we actually deployed 8 cameras. And if you look at the far right bottom screen, you'll see that umbrella thing. It actually is a mobile phone attached on a tripod stand with an umbrella attached onto it and powered up by a power bank. And that was a 5G device using midband. And we had around eight of those devices around that motocross event, and each was broadcasting at about full HD, 60 frames a second, right? And we did this over 2 days. So it shows us that just with 5G alone, it will transform how broadcasting would normally be done. Yeah, so we start off with that. What we also announced late last year were 3 broad engagements, and this is public news, so I can mention that. There are several other engagements which isn't public yet, so unfortunately I won't be able to share that. But the 3 public engagements around 5G commercial adoption, which we announced, comprised of Infinite Studios. Those of you who have watched Crazy Rich Asians, they're the production house which did that. So they have been awarded a grant to create a 5G attraction, which will replace what is currently existing within Marina Bay Sands, the light show itself. And it will have AR, VR components built into that attraction itself. Second one, below that, you will see NUHS with their holomedicine program. And holomedicine is with AR, VR is not really new. But what will be interesting in this deployment is that they will use AR, VR for real-time surgical navigation. And that's the key word here, to be able to do real-time surgical navigation, not just for training and learning purposes. It's actually a new revelation. And NUHS actually was piloting this over Wi-Fi a few months back, and they found several issues which couldn't be resolved. And using 5G and licensed spectrum, they're able to reduce the latency together with mobile edge compute as well on board. And lastly, another one we did was for Keppel Offshore Marine. They're basically deploying 5G with AR, VR capability and predictive maintenance to support the ability for subject matter experts to be brought in real time. And this was key. Due to COVID, a lot of the shipyard maintenance functions couldn't be performed because it was difficult to get some of these experts in. Having this in a collaborative medium with AR, VR built in, that relieves that pressures which we had. So these are the 3 use cases which we formally announced. Obviously, this is being deployed as we speak. And I think the earliest you will see one of this announced for production use will be probably later this year. So what is in it for manufacturing, right? As I mentioned there, we've got several manufacturing engagements. It's just that it's not formally announced right now. So I will have to refrain from mentioning who are the companies. But broadly, we see 5 different use cases within the manufacturing space, which are looking at transforming how they do work. I think my colleagues will talk about this later, but having collaborative robots relying on 5G, having your AMRs moving on the factory shop floor, we see that as a very common use case in the manufacturing space. Second one, real-time monitoring, using cameras and obviously your IoT sensors as well, being able to provide true visibility for your manufacturing shop floor is also another key use case. And if you put that two together between collaborative robots and real-time monitoring, what's really changed in the manufacturing space is the fact that the shop floor now is completely dynamic, right? When I say that, is that the shop floor isn't fixed to one station doing one thing. The shop floor can be repositioned or reconfigured dynamically to allow different products to be manufactured within that space. And when you're looking at reconfiguring the shop floor, you can't have cables being pulled or laid in that purpose. And as such, 5G being a wireless medium provides them the flexibility of having that dynamic shop floor. On the far right, you will see intelligent automation or intelligent analysis, right? And this is really in the QC or quality control side of things, where robotics together with not just visual, but audio capability with AI built in is being used to detect defects or understand where there are manufacturing flaws early rather than later. Going down below, the connected factory is also another key driver for why 5G is coming into play. We see factories or manufacturing plants being connected via digital twins, and having this in play becomes a critical factor if they are trying to coordinate, orchestrate the parts being manufactured to be aligned in terms of what they need to produce by a certain time frame. And lastly, I think I mentioned it before, I think the AR, VR space continues to play within the manufacturing space, be it for collaboration, be it for remote expert support. It becomes key. This chart just summarizes the whole journey I took you through, right? So you can see the red pin drops are for the 7 trial projects we did, and these are 5G trials. After the trials, we basically set up what we call open live test beds. And these are live test beds with the mobile network operator, addressing different areas of work. So from maritime space, right down to drones, right down to smart buildings. And lastly, we've got 9 engagements right now today. I talked about 3 today, but there are another 6, which you can see from this chart, which are adopting 5G for production deployments. So what's next? As Terence mentioned, right? To get that ecosystem going, IMDA can't do this alone, and we actually work with several associations, several partners to make that happen. Obviously, webinars like this are very helpful to get the message out there and to get the awareness out there for us. But in addition to that, technical workshops are also critical. So I mentioned we've got this open live test beds. One of that live test beds with IMDA operators is what we call Pixel Labs, and that is one of our AR VR labs. So if there are companies out there who are looking at trialing or understanding how 5G can transform their business, we would encourage them to make use of this open live test beds. And then lastly, we've got roundtable discussions happening as well to try and educate the industry sectors in terms of what needs to be done to move them to the next level. And lastly, having the awareness without building a rich ecosystem of partners or service providers who can deliver this is not going to get us anywhere. So having that ecosystem participate in events like this and also in our engagements become critical. Lastly, this is my present to the people on board. The program which I talked about, the grant which we have active for 5G commercial adoption is available on our website. And this grant program is still active, like I mentioned, and it's available. We would look at defraying the costs for both end users or tech providers in Singapore, and we would defray that cost up to 70%. Right? The details are underlinked, and I'm sure that Terence would share that with you later. So that kind of wraps up my presentation. Happy to take any questions offline. Thank you, Terence.
Oh, thanks, David. I think it's a very comprehensive update about what IMDA have achieved in the last 4 years, right, since 2019. I think the biggest achievement, of course, is seeing a lot of advanced 5G pilot case being driven by IMDA. I think the one thing is also very encouraging is IMDA putting the grantee to support the industry piloting, investing. I think this is very promising. So, hey, David, I think some question already to you in the Q&A boxes. I just want to remind the attendees, please put your question in the Q&A boxes, because when you put in the chat box, it will be very easy to lose once more message in the chat box. So better to put into the Q&A boxes. Thank you. So now let me introduce the next speaker. David, you can stop sharing. Which is from Singtel, Mark Cole, the 5G business and 5G business planning and partnership director from Singtel. So Mark will be share us how operators support advanced manufacturing. Mark, over to you. You can start sharing your presentation, please.
Sure thing. Just give me a second while I put in presentation mode. Okay, thanks so much for inviting us to actually share, some of our journey, actually helping some of our customers in Singapore in the Industry 4.0 space. The Industry 4.0 space, and specifically manufacturing, seems to be one of the verticals and areas that seem to be, very readily adopting 5G. 5G, whether it's in building coverage or campus network setup. They are some of our earliest adopters with several, of our customers, in commercials right now, commercial production right now, leveraging 5G to actually support their operations. So I want to actually spend some time to actually talk about, some of the learnings that we have, and also some of the things that we are trying to help our customers, solve, especially, since we do have a couple of customers who have already adopted this in that particular space. Before I get there, just want to quickly highlight that 5G is been talked about quite a bit. A lot of folks have seen a lot of the possibles, whether it's some form of augmented reality use case, whether it's some form of autonomous vehicle, AGV, robotics, or even drones. This excites a lot of customers, but as we start engaging our customers, we see that there are actually two major challenges that a lot of them actually face when they want to begin their 5G journey. And actually we can bucket them into two big broad areas. First one is business case. I think I did see a couple of questions popping up with regards to is there any real use case and everything. I think one big thing that tends to come up is what's the return on investment for something like this? Why proceed with 5G? What can I do with 5G tends to be a very common topic also, because a lot of times there are a lot of nuances. People hear about the increased bandwidth, people hear about the reduced latency, the whole notion about SLA being enabled with this new concept called network slicing, edge computing. So in many cases, right, a lot of customers are trying to figure out how that fits in and how that benefits them, and is it sufficiently enticing to actually dive in and actually invest in this. The other big area that tends to come up is how do I manage this? Doing a small little trial is fantastic and everything, where you actually build a full stack application like a drone and everything, but how do I manage this at scale? Once I should put this into production, right? How do I make sure that it operates from an end-to-end perspective? And that's also the other big question that is always looming in our customers' minds. So very quickly, I just want to quickly talk about what we are doing to actually try to help customers on this particular journey and try to reduce a bit of friction that for our customers to actually embark on this 5G journey. So the first thing is about supporting these customers' journey, and in many cases, right, a lot of times when they are not sure about the technology, they want to see it in action, right? We actually have two avenues that we have that allows them to very quickly understand the technology, help them in identifying use cases, help them evaluate, the 5G technology vis-a-vis example, does Wi-Fi meet my needs? Can I just use Wi-Fi alone? So we have two facilities or two venues, path to deployment. One of them is in a sandbox environment, which is basically a 5G innovation center, where we actually do bring our customers in to actually test 5G and actually validate there is sufficient benefits associated with 5G, discover the art of possible. We do hold a lot of ideation workshops with them, both ideation and education workshops with them in this particular facility to actually get them to actually understand a lot more about 5G. And then we also start introducing a suite of ecosystem partners so that each journey it's not in isolation. There's a lot of learnings and a lot of existing partners that we have who have already done some form of implementation in other parts of the world. So this is something that we actually want our customers to be able to leverage as they come into our environment, basically our innovation center. The second area where we path to the deployment is, in many cases, our customers, especially example, in one case, we had a manufacturing customer who was actually very, very interested in deploying 5G, wasn't very clear, about the benefits, why can't it compare, why can't I actually put Wi-Fi, which is the current setup that they have, what kind of benefits I'm going to have with this. The unfortunate thing is a lot of times, a lot of customers can't come to our facility because they want to test it live within their own environment. Sometimes it's about testing it with for a specific set of machineries, and these machineries are not practical to actually be moving it into our sandbox environment. So what we do is we actually bring the lab to them. And in this case, we do have a 5G in a box setup that we tend to deploy very quickly. It takes about an hour to deploy, bringing the benefits of 5G into our customers' environment, allowing them to test 5G, testing the speeds, whether it's as advertised, the uplink and downlink, performance, and more importantly, also allow them to test edge computing capabilities with this small little transportable box you see on the bottom right-hand side picture. So this really helps with our customers as they're actually evaluating 5G to actually see whether this is actually appropriate technology for them, so that they actually can move to the next stage of their 5G journey. The second area that, as I mentioned, right, is around if I decide to take the plunge into 5G, right, biggest issue, is that for me to be able to, for my customers example, to be able to deploy this at scale, one big problem is they face a lot of different challenges when they want to actually operate a service, end-to-end service on ongoing basis. And we actually look at the bottom of the slide, right? You see some of the most common challenges they face. The first is example, number one, they tend to go to the network operator, whoever providing connectivity. And one thing about that is they don't have a lot of ability to control this particular network service. If it's example 4G or 5G, in many cases, right, they need to actually revert back to the telco and ask for help to actually change quality of service. As an example, this takes time, which in certain environments like a manufacturing environment, it's not feasible. That's a big problem that they actually face. The second is edge computing. There's a need for them to actually support different computing environments, not only edge computing, but in many cases they do have applications sitting in the cloud, sitting on premise, sitting in an edge compute environment like a Mac environment. Again, right? You notice the more technologies we have there, it's all in silos, making it very hard for them to actually ensure an end-to-end service. So that's also a second problem that our customers tend to face. The third one is the ability to actually see across all the different technologies, Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G, edge computing, public cloud. How do we, if you actually want an end-to-end service to work, you really need to have visibility and manage these operations across all these different silos of systems and silos of data, which is actually a big challenge for them. And the last two, very quickly, in interest of time, is obviously they want the ability to have access to information so that they actually can act on it, whether that means AI, whether it means consolidated analytics, dashboard for them to actually look at. This becomes very important for them as they run this end-to-end service. And I think I'm not going to mention about the ecosystem because as Terence has mentioned earlier, ecosystem is definitely one big area that is actually very important for customers. No man's an island. Building an end-to-end service usually relies on a lot of partners to come in, and this is where one of the areas that our customers struggle. So to actually help our customers along this particular front, whether it's in manufacturing environment, whether it's actually in the transportation environment, Singtel has actually actively invested in a platform called Paragon Platform. She addresses this different facets. Number one, obviously, is managing of the Mac being the edge compute environment as part of 5G. Importantly, also tying that edge computing requirements to a network that works, according to what the customer wants in terms of SLA and so forth. That means, example, if you need to have a different network slice with a different QoS, how do I associate connectivity to this slice and tying it back to a Mac infrastructure or edge compute infrastructure? How do I manage it across different cloud environments and Mac environments? This is actually becomes very important, and Singtel's platform actually assists in that. Next is maybe talking about APIs. What you do not really want, or what you want over the long term in terms of aspiration, is for your applications to self-manage rather than always having a person sitting at a portal configuring this. So being able to expose API becomes very, very important. And then, as mentioned, right, exposing a service orchestration platform and a monitoring platform to actually allow you visibility across all the different silos of systems that I've just quickly highlighted. This is actually augmented by the fact that we as part of the platforms, our partners also do publish their applications into this particular platform to actually allow our customers to seamlessly identify applications that they can use and deploy onto, whether it's a container or a virtual machine, tying that connectivity, allowing them to actually build very, very quick MVPs and also push them out into production. So in short, right, how this will actually look like will be this. So if you actually look at it, right, you need end-to-end visibility. If you're actually running something on the shop floor, you need end-to-end visibility and management capabilities across. If you look at the bottom left, across your radios, example, your connectivities, how you actually program your network with network slicing, how do you associate that connectivity to, example, whatever compute infrastructure you need. Example, on the right-hand side, you can see, example, some of the compute environments that we have actually worked with our partners to be able to deliver. Example, Microsoft Stack, Stack Edge, Stack Hub, Stack HCI. You have AWS Outpost. You also have, example, Singtel's own variant of a bare metal infrastructure that allows sophisticated customers to deploy their application workloads in a very cost-effective manner. You are able to actually manage, whatever workloads that you have within the cloud. So example, in Azure or in AWS region, in many cases, a lot of consolidated dashboards are actually implemented down there. A lot of ERP systems are actually implemented in there. A lot of enterprise applications are implemented in there. You actually need to actually have a seamless integration and coordination between these enterprise applications with low latency edge compute application. And as mentioned, ability to actually manage your application lifecycle, leveraging of ecosystem partners in who publish their application onto our marketplace. Time check. Okay. Next, I just want to quickly talk about some of the customers that we have actually worked with, either in production, meaning these are already in commercials, or these are in some form paid trials that we actually work with our customers to deliver, in the Industry 4.0 space. So first is a deployment of 5G in a factory environment to actually provide condition monitoring. So this particular customers actually wants real-time information into the performance of all their equipment, because they're actually in a high-speed manufacturing environment. They want to actually make sure that they have visibility on the performance of all their equipment. They will actually want to actually perform a quick, predictive and real-time monitoring of their equipment, so that they are able to address any deviations in terms of performance, or intervene very quickly if they see some anomalies that are actually happening. Another use case for our customers, which is also in a live commercial environment, is the ability to leverage video analytics for quality control. Again, this is actually in a high-speed manufacturing environment, so the requirements in terms of latencies are very, very stringent. They want very, very high bandwidth, especially on the uplink, to be able to support identification of issues, leveraging on video analytics to actually solve or identify defects very, very quickly. Another customer that we have, I think it was actually highlighted earlier by I think David and Terence, that flexibility in the shop floor is actually very, very important. It's something that a lot of customers aspire. A lot of times they like to be able to ship parts from one location to the other, rather than following a fixed assembly line. This customer is again another customer that is in live production. What they're actually leveraging is a combination of AGVs and also AMRs to shift very, very large work in progress parts across the building in the case of AGV, and in the case of AMR, smaller work components, tools to different parts of the factory. In this particular case, most of the processing is actually done on the edge compute environment, rather than on the robots, on the AGVs themselves. So what you have is a lot of sensors on these AGVs and AMRs, but all processing, even for environmental awareness on these AGVs and AMRs, is actually processed on a edge compute environment. And that's why the need for very low latency requirements on the network itself. Lastly, this is going to be my last slide. I'm just going very quickly walk through 3 different use cases that our customers are actually looking at. These are in paid trials. The first one is the use of augmented reality. And augmented reality is showing to be a very versatile technology with a lot of interest by a lot of customers. In many cases, it's used for training. In this case, it's actually used in one of our customers to actually support ensuring that safety procedures and correct operating of machines. Our customers, employees are actually using machines, doing the step-by-step, as indicated by their augmented reality headset, are actually adhered to. so much so that the equipment is not damaged, and more importantly, that it doesn't lead to any safety lapse in the augmented reality use case. In the second use case, which is basically a drone inspection. So what customers are actually using this is actually to use drone to very quickly do inventory management and also a survey of existing inventory. What they've actually discovered was the use of this particular drones and video analytics has actually led to a very significant reduction on inventory stock taking time in their warehouse. And the last one, again, is actually an augmented reality headset. One of the biggest challenge that our customers have sometimes is, especially for a warehouse, is with regards to picking and packing in a warehouse environment, is there is actually a lot of errors or high error rate. A lot of times, it's very cumbersome for them to actually carry a couple of devices as they actually move along. One for scanning of barcodes, the other a clipboard for them to actually receive instructions. What they work orders. What they actually discovered was a leveraging of augmented reality, being able to free up the hands, scanning these barcodes using augmented reality headset, and also being able to push orders rather than leveraging a static clipboard orders. That they had to follow, significantly reduce the errors that resulted from picking, and also improve efficiency and productivity of their employees. So with that, I think I'm very happy to actually share what Singtel has been actually working with our customers in both deploying production environment, 5G for manufacturing, and some of the paid trials that we currently have with our customers. I'm happy to actually take any questions that you guys might have offline. Look forward to those questions. Thank you so much. Back to you, Terence.
Yes, thanks, Mark. I think it's very good to see Singtel as an operator. You guys already transform yourself to bringing new capability to support the industry for digital transformation. I think really encouraging to all our operator member who are also looking for supporting this very good opportunity. So I think, Mark, there are a few questions. I think please check the Q&A boxes. A lot of questions already answered by David, but if you can also take a look if you want to supplement any information on top. Of course, there are also some questions direct to you. So next we have a government agency, Advanced with Manufacturing and Technology Center, Cheng Leong Lim, the development scientist, industrial IoT and connectivity section manager. He's going to share us how public-private partnership can translate research to 5G industry application. So Cheng Leong, over to you, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Terence. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You're right, and see the slides as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yep, thank you very much, everyone. Terence, for inviting ARTC and us to share this topic about translating research to 5G industrial application with PPP. It's called public-private partnership. And to really set the context that I'm sharing with you today, we have to start off with the idea of factory of the future, right? How does a factory of the future looks like, and how can an enhanced connectivity like 5G support this vision? We first have to know that the factory of the future is increasingly driven by consumer demand. Right? This trend can be seen, as mentioned with David and Mark early on. It can be observed across industry, such as MRO. MRO stands for maintenance, repair, and operations. FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and even automakers, the makers of automobile. We have seen that their productions is generally gearing up to respond quickly to changes in new product demands, as well as a mix of product types, as well as the parts itself. And in the past years, we have really seen production concepts like discrete manufacturing line, a production line with personalization capabilities, and even virtual showcases that is to highlight end-to-end production traceability, all in all to be able to track changes and adaptability within a production line itself. And this is where we see connectivity becomes the foundation of the factory of future. Connectivity must first support information-centric network. Essentially means that the data that's being acquired can be distributed and gain meaningful production insights as well as control. And the thing is that if you look at the right-hand side of the screen here, these are building blocks, data acquisitions, the process controls, inspections, robotics applications. All these are technology blocks that are already here today, right? But how can connectivity today, as well as in prep in the future, to ensure seamlessness in the shift within these industrial processes, how can these building blocks be easily integratable, reconfigured, redeployed within a factory line itself, overall at a much lower cost? And practicing and realizing the promise of enhanced connectivity like 5G is really easier said than done. In ARTC, we have 5G test beds, multiple 5G test beds, and we learned that 5G is really not a plug-and-play solution. There should be system design change, system reconfiguration to really take advantage of 5G. For example, the choice of streaming protocols, the choice of industrial applications in terms of camera settings, for example, and having a dedicated space to for industrial players to first trial, to gain the implementation know-how as well as the confidence in the technology is very important. So this is where the partnerships between telcos, the research institute like ARTC, and the industry can be the most helpful to build a platform to realize the future and power connectivity. As a research institute under A-STAR, A-STAR stands for Agencies for Science and Technology and Research. ARTC is a contemporary platform that builds upon public-private partnerships with a mission to bridge the gap between research and the industry, right? Research, there are a lot of types of research, not all can be translated to the industry, and yet industry needs R&D to sustain, to be competitive. So our goal here is to co-create advanced manufacturing capabilities with the industry and eventually support in deploying these solutions. So we ARTC has just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year. Now we have grown our membership size to 98 members today. Companies of all sizes, including MNCs, LLE, SME, coming from different sectors, right? We group the members into 3 main sectors. You can see here, transport, engineering, consumer and modern services, and energy. In this consortium, it's very diverse. We bring in together system integrators, solution providers, and the public sector research organizations like the different RIs in A-STAR, as well as academic institute like the universities, all coming together to address industrial problem statements. And throughout the years, the ARTC has generated multiple flagship research programs, right? Our flagship research program can be in the form of industrial joint labs. The known one will be 60 million joint lab with Rolls-Royce and Sazels to develop MRO aerospace, advanced processes, automation and digital technologies. We also have flagship research programs in the form of test beds, right? For example, our very recent supply chain initiative that we call Supply Chain 4.0, which has attracted about 50 over companies across the sector, coming together to co-develop digital technologies to enhance responsiveness and resilience within the supply chains, given that there are a lot of disruptions in the recent year in terms of supply chain, all of which are conducted with further investment in R&D in advanced manufacturing. And with such PPP framework, our research resources can be put together with best-in-class knowledge, industrial knowledge, all in order to facilitate and accelerate early technology development and then eventually deployment in the industry itself. So just one quick example of our PPP framework is our joint lab with Abrasive Engineering. They are local SME. They have been working with ARTC on their digitalization journey with the aim to transform their local factory with advanced manufacturing capabilities. Their goal is to design higher precision valves that's needed in aerospace, FMCG like dosing units, yeah, so on and so forth. The challenge working with them, it's in the factory, they have brownfield and greenfield system. And in this joint lab, ARTC's expertise and facilities are leveraged on to build ready to market capabilities like monitoring system with IoT, image analytics, predictive maintenance, all of which are integrable to their different machine types. And it is such joint labs, such research program that help Abrasive Engineering to reduce the time needed required for R&D, of which they eventually adopted the solutions that are developed and actually deploy them. So now coming to the portion about my sharing about translating research to 5G application. In ARTC, we have a 5G smart factory concept. This is powered by Singtel. It is a consolidation of multiple 5G enabled test beds that spread out across ARTC, where 5G infrastructure is built on top of the flagship research test beds that I mentioned earlier, the like of model factory, hyper-personalization line, and supply chain. And by building 5G infrastructure on these research test beds, we actually minimize the need to explore 5G use cases from scratch, right? We are leveraging on ongoing research programs with the access to state-of-the-art equipment. And these programs, these projects are already working on problem statements tied to the industry. And we believe that with our 5G smart factory and leveraging on the research facilities, we can be one of the leading 5G manufacturing test beds in Singapore. Again, focus on de-risking, defraying the costs associating to 5G industrial application conceptualization, and hopefully eventually adoption. So yeah, so our intention is always that the drive for 5G should come from rethinking manufacturing. And it's like, for example, simply plugging 5G with CP to machines are actually not sufficient. We need to deliberately design the use case to take advantage of enhanced connectivity. And you can see within our ecosystem, manufacturing players coming from different domains, they have different needs. The manufacturing verticals are very fragmented, right? Every plant tends to do different things. And to have better 5G relatability, we have to look into multiple 5G solutions rather than a one-size-fits-all model. And this is where in the ARTC, we have seeded 5G topics through our existing collaboration platform, which we call core research projects. These projects are one-year durations that recur annually. The projects are tackling real problem statements grouped into common technology topics like advanced manufacturing processes, autonomous manufacturing, resilient value chain, and net zero manufacturing. And having the industrial players coming together, sharing a similar problem statements, having a common technology topics actually enables cross learning between the companies. For example, in oil and gas, they have to look into net zero manufacturing. And these common problem statements can be related to medtech, semiconductors, for example. And if we are able to introduce 5G into these common topics, the relatability of 5G and their need to address the connectivity challenge can be more compelling. And the introduction of 5G to these topics actually can address unique connectivity needs within the topic itself. For example, production flexibility in the need within this topic on advanced manufacturing processes, or the lack of computing power needed for intelligence to be introduced in autonomous manufacturing. And having 5G riding on to these core research projects actually gives us opportunity to quickly proliferate the use of 5G meaningfully, right? I cannot share the specifics about the 5G projects due to confidentiality, but I can say that this approach, having a consortium having common industrial problems and projects that are actually running. It has proven beneficial to 5G industrial applications such as 5G enabled mobile robots, process digital twin, and things like edge computing for manufacturing networks. And similarly, like today, engagement workshops with end users and the ecosystem is very important. We hosted events, one of which is called Reimagine Manufacturing of 5G, together with Singtel and Ericsson. The event is attended by our consortium members and different customers of Singtel and Ericsson. We held fireside chats with Micron Technologies and ABB, all of which we are sharing the 5G digitalization journey in different contexts, local and regional, sharing insights to how greater possibility can be achieved through collaboration. And it is through such event, we also share the multiple 5G demonstrators that we have developed in the past years. These different showcases has allowed our industrial players to really reimagine manufacturing of 5G. We discuss about existing connectivity may not be sufficient for their current roadmap. A classic example would be a company who is already involved in digitalization transformation. They know that they will need remote collaboration. They need to access data analytics anywhere in the shop floor, indoor and outdoor. They question if 5G is suitable, and if so, how can they take advantage of 5G? So it is questions like this, conversations like this that help ARTC, Singtel, and Ericsson to further deepen the industrial knowledge and alignment to the connectivity needs of the industry. So this is actually the end of my slides. I just want to end the keynote by saying, with our PPP framework, the track records, and the robust ecosystem, we actually enabled supplements of different unique technologies, and 5G is one of them. And again, our approach of tapping on the research efforts, research programs, we do away with the need for creating things from scratch. And again, having multiple use cases coming together, as you can see in this slide, we are looking at the power of connectivity from a factory perspective rather than a one single use case alone, which I believe with time will be more compelling, and we will continue to expand the use cases to really introduce how 5G can be enhanced manufacturing itself. So yeah, this is the end of my sharing. I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Cheng Leong. I think very good to know ARTC playing a very critical role to support the industry on innovation in their productivity and the all the ongoing work. So I think just remind the attendees, if you have a question, just post in the Q&A boxes. Cheng Leong will try to answer in the Q&A boxes. Thanks. So now let me introduce another speaker, Neil New. He is the Assistant CEO of Sun and Singsung Robot Thailand. He is also the Director of the Strategy and Marketing Center in Singsung Group. Leo, you can turn on your camera and microphone and share your slide, please.
Okay, hello everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see your screen. Yes.
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's a very honor to present today and join with you with the webinar. And thank you, Terence, for the invitations. So today we'd like to share some of the latest progress and also solutions from the CSN group for regarding automations and robotics. So my introduction is mainly constructing of the three parts. First, we would like to introduce briefly about the CSN group. And secondly, we will review some of the smart manufacturing and logistics solutions, focusing on the advanced manufacturing sectors and in China and also globally. And thirdly, we will have a real case studies regarding the 5G application in Thailand. Actually for CSI Group, I'm not sure everyone here has heard of us, but I mean, you may know that there's in the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, in the closing ceremony, and there's 8 mini shows from China government. And this is the first time that using the AGV robot to conduct a performance live streaming in the world stage. And we're very honored to be the supplier to provide the 24 AGVs to conduct this show. So actually for CSM company, we are founded in the year 2000, and we are affiliated company from the Chinese Academy of Science. So since 35 years ago, we have been doing the governmental research, focusing on the robotic automations and advanced robots. At that time in China, we can say that the manufacturing industry is very lag behind. There was no automation at all. Even we cannot talk about industry 2.0. It's mainly a labor-intensive manufacturing industry. However, during the last 20 years, especially the last 10 years, China has experienced industrial transformations and upgrades. And we are very honored to be behind these process and help a lot of manufacturing industries to develop. And so far, we have covered almost 3,000 in customers and worldwide, and our solutions has been used in over 40 countries in the world. And specifically talking about our solutions, we have the major 3 segments. The first part is the intelligent logistics solutions, and second part is the smart factory manufacturing solution. And the third part is also one of the things that most our eco partners and also our partners in other areas or other industry would like to tangle, which is like robotic products. And for a CSM company, actually, we have over 3,000 staffs that is doing the research and developments of the robotic automation applications and technology research. And the R&D people that is taking about 75%. So we actually accumulated over 35 years of this kind of research and engineering application know-how. As we know that China is maybe one of the largest manufacturing countries in the world and has the largest and most complete supply chain. So we have opportunities to provide solutions for crossing different industries. And this is actually how we can establish this team for as the one of the largest robot company in China. And just to have some quick look at our partners, and mostly we have the eco partners and supply chains, which is the world famous suppliers. And I also have noticed that in the previous speakers, we also can see a lot of corporations. One thing that I would like to highlight is that our cooperation is based on long years of commercial projects, corporations that we provide end-to-end industrial automation projects, such as the production lines or assembly lines, and even some of the automated robotic products, such as the AGVs. And the customers for CSN, as we have in the regions and also across the globe, are very renowned manufacturing customers. They are mainly for the automotive, EVs, semiconductors, high-end electronics, and other top of the industry leaders of different industries. So actually, we are more like the crown jewels of the industrial manufacturing industries that providing the cutting-edge visionary solutions for the industry development, setting the benchmark that will follow for the others in the coming years. And then I'd like to take a little bit more steps or in depth to introduce about the smart manufacturing and logistics solution. The first thing is as we talk about the industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing process, that is mainly about the as we call it smart factory. But the traditional manufacturing customers, they talk about the automations. That is transforming from industry 2 to industry 3.0. But however, the challenging here is how to improve the flexibilities, adaptabilities, and also to sharing to personalized productions. One of the key features to organically organize the resource to transform is the inner logistic and external logistics. And as you can see in this on the picture on the right side, this is actually, we can see it's basically a warehouse layout, a vertical warehouse, which is very commonly seen in China and also in Europe and in Singapore. However, this is actually not only a warehouse, it is a factory and is constructed based on the ASR system. So we actually reshape the future factories with this kind of logistic automation technologies. And this actually provided a natural foundations and ground for deploying many of the use case and application scenarios. The common problems that we're facing in the Southeast Asia is actually not the technology itself, but how to tangle and how to solve the problems for the customers. Actually, of course, like the 5G technology is one of the futures technology that everyone would admit. And in our opinions, that the customers will all aware of the importance of the 5G and can set the future next 10 or 20 years development trends. But how to use this kind of technology related to them is the crucial point. So actually, we actually provided the infrastructures of the entire system, from the IT systems to the physical automation devices. And this is not only providing a single solutions or use case, but it's more like a tailored design after the series of consultations and surveys, which is very unique to every individual customers. It can be from the DC centers, fulfillment center, e-commerce, even some of the warehouse of the manufacturers, or is a kind of other industries. However, the purpose and the process will be totally different, and the requirements for each customers are unique. So here is when we actually provided the solutions, we have to understand what is the pain point of the customer, what is the ROI and the main concern of the customers. And we not selecting specific solutions to promote, but actually we based on the requirements of the customer to integrate. And this is the very essential point for establish the trust and the long-term cooperation with the customer. So for example, like this is one of the user case that we have in China, that we strategic working with the BMW China factory. Since 5 years ago, we have been testing, about three years ago, so we have been starting to test about the 5G applications in China, together with the BMWs. At that time, we have been installing the 5G CPE modules on our AGV systems, and all these robots, as you can see, are running with the 5G network in the factory. So this kind of the working scenarios and applications are all based on the feasibility studies and commercialized projects. But the foundation of the customer to use such technology, such as the 5G, it has the premises that already this is a ground for using such technology. And there's a very strong connections between the automations to the customer investment, which is related to their production. And based on that, we can easily implement some of the cutting edge technology, such as the 5G and the IoT and AI together as the supplementary, but also with the most excellent parts of the whole project. Another case is, for example, through the AGV products. This is in one of the Chinese leading commercial vehicle manufacturer is Ford. And also for these projects, we have deployed the 5G system with the synchronized twin AGV for assembly line. So this is a reshaping factory solution that is very different from the traditional manufacturing for automotive. There was no heavy conveyors, and there was very light and very intimate with the people. And most importantly, for the investment is very flexible. The customer can actually predict the sales values and sales amounts and increase the investment every year based on the capacity of the productions and also the market feedback. So and also together with the 5G is that we actually be able to scale the systems much easy. We even sometimes our engineers will be able to access to the whole system on monitoring the operations from our headquarters office and no need to be on site. Everything is not possible without these new technologies. Another important thing is like for CSN Group, so we actually are investing in many of the cutting edge technologies. We fill the blanks of the industry layout of China. And this is the outdoor AGV for the container transportation for seaport. And we actually created such solutions for meeting the different requirements of the seaport, land port, and for public transportation, because there's a point of the 24 hours and very harsh environments and the carbon emission neutralizations issue. So we actually already established a very big and first reference for Chinese suppliers outside China in Singapore, and also hopefully also in the near future in Thailand as well. And then we would like to look at the smart factory. So our smart factory usually in China we can call is an Industry 4.0 factory or it's a dark light factory. But there are very comprehensive solutions and technology that involve in this whole layout. So it's not only about certain technologies, it's about the general planning of the factory. And this is actually exactly what CSN is able to do, to provide a customized total solution that is covering the whole entire production process for the customers. And this is actually, as I just mentioned, a perfect grounds for any new technology to blend in and to be shown, because normally they currently I'm based in Thailand, so the common features for Thai customer is customer like to see. However, they would like to see the real case. Not to say that the reference case in the labs is not good. It's very good to set the models, but actually for the ROI or for the feasibilities, and for industrial applications, the customer like to see the reference, the real case reference. In this case, they can evaluate the risk and the feasibilities from the technology wise and also from the productivity wise. And this is also the biggest strength of our company to provide such commercializable turnkey total solution. And actually for these are the things that most customers are looking at when we actually consider to build different levels of the factories, for example, like the factory levels or production line levels. And even that we will look at all the features that is merged together, which is the major concern for the customers. And next, I would like to show one of the real case projects that we have delivered in Thailand. So this customer is one of the leading auto parts manufacturing in Thailand, have over 60 years history. And they are traditional industries, and as all traditional industries, they are facing challenge and they are looking for transformation opportunities. So these are the problems that they are facing in their factory. So together with our partners in Thailand, we work with Huawei and AAS 5G 2B. So together we developed this 5G smart factory total solution based on our existing smart factory. So this is actually one of the first user case, a real user case in Thailand that has the commercial values and is already validated by the customers, and is a very good examples of the smart factory and 5G, how to connect and to apply it, and that allows other industry customers to follow and to learn. So this is like the smart factory logistic chart that is related to these projects. And actually you can see the subsystems of the device level, such as the robots, the AGV, and the cranes based on the existing current layouts and the facility of the customers, we can quickly upgrade with the 5G dongles, such as the CPEs and 5G modules provided from our eco partners and the ICT suppliers, and to form, we call it cut the belt. And this actually can solve a lot of the real case issues, such as the old factory modifications, the limits of the wiring and long distance cable and signal and information exchanging. And also eventually that we can help to reduce the manufacturing costs and the system deployment costs. These are the things that the customer will look at. And on the top side, that we also be able to integrate our systems, such as the robotic control system, the warehouse control system, and some of the SCADA system under our WMS system, warehouse management. And this will be integrated through the 5G cloud, allowing the customer to hot backups the data while keep the high data security and reliability, and which enables the customer for enterprise level deployments, which is very eye-catching. At the same time, is highly feasible and setting a reference for future application expansion. So then we take a look at the structure, as you can see here, and we have the different layers of the systems. For CSM, we actually provide the layers from the device to the control to the execution scheduling. So this part are all the things that no matter what kind of customers, they will be looking for such solutions. And based on this, we can seamlessly integrate and with the customer's existing systems, also using a lot of new technologies such as the IoTs, 3D visions, 5Gs, and the digital twins to facilitate the factory manufacturing process, and also to create the concept of the Industry 4.0 or sustainability development. So let's take a look at the actual case that for our projects. So the first part is the intelligent 3D vision camera systems with the robots auto grading. And so for these projects that we use the 5G to control the robots and the vision system, utilizing the high bandwidth and low latency. So this is keep the reliability of the system, but also we utilize the high band to scan and collect all the visual data and to be analyzed by the servers. So this is actually a very good application also because the robot system itself is quite remote to the main server. So the distance usually deployed in this old factory is very limited. There's no ducts or bridge allowing us to install the new wiring cables, internet. So we have to find a new way to seamlessly upgrade. So the 5G is actually one of the best solution for this case. The second part is the flexible transportation, which is the AGV. So right now, this is actually one of the most suitable project and the solution for many users across the region. So every customer should have their own factory, warehouse, and also they have the people. So typical customers have 3 shifts for 24 hours operation. So using the AGVs, that we can also use the 5G monitoring system on the clouds. So this enables a very seamlessly connectivities, and also enable the factory to run at a very low cost and highly reliability using the 5G. The third part of our system is also one of the key, is the ASR system. It's called automatic storage and retrieval system. It is no longer only a warehouse. It is also the core or the heart of the factory. So in this warehouse is stored the raw materials, semi-products, and even the finished goods. So highly flexible and monitored by the smart software systems. So with the 5G is also connected to the MEC and also to through the MEC to the 5G RAN. So with this kind of system, we can organically connect all our automation devices together to form a total factory solutions using the 5G to connect everything. So this is the network infrastructure solutions. And as you can see, The devices that we use in this warehouse is actually not so much. It mainly is like one set of the ASR's warehouse control and 2 AGV and 1 robot. And also there will be some kind of a PDA and menu device, allowing the operators to monitor and to see. But actually the meanings of such application using the limited resource of the 5G devices or SIM cards is very significant. And this is actually the first time for the customer to use and experience such technology. And as we know, all the manufacturers, they have not only one factory. Once this door is open, and they will seek the opportunities of applying such technologies to other of their projects in more, larger scale, but with the commercial values. So this is actually the structure. It's also empowered by the Huawei and the AAS. It is not possible without the network provided from the AAS. So actually, our aim is to expand this POC, or is as we call it, the pilot commercial projects to the enterprise level. And also we like to set the pilots and the reference to the region, allowing the other customers in the same region to see what will be the visions of the 5G smart factory look like. Because actually this kind of technology, as we say, is not new. We just set a correct business model and also find the suitable customers with the suitable technology, and we integrate. And this is exactly the most important point: how to show to the customers what is the future look like. So this is what our vision, what would the future look like. But as we CSN Group, as we see in the industry developments and manufacturing transformations, as we can see in the near future, that in the manufacturing industry, there are several areas we can see more opportunities of applying for the 5G smart manufacturing, so such as the EV battery manufacturing process. This is also the success of the China lithium battery industry. The success reason is because it's high automation rates and with the suitable technologies. As you can see in these slides, the entire process of the battery manufacturing is 95% relying on automation. The people functions in this whole process is almost none. You can easily replace by any people in this production process without so much training. The secret is all the critical points is controlled by the robot. And this is also the point that in the future expansions, the 5G will likely to play a very important role, because the robot itself provided in natural grounds and earth for the application. Another section is the high-end electronic manufacturing, because also as we see that it is a rising trend of the China semiconductors and electronic industries, also through the region such as Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. So in this part of the solutions, we actually like to see the applications of cutting edge technologies such as we call the ARV robots. And this is the AGV with the robot cobot arms that is developed from CSM. So as you can see, the robot AGV is no longer considered as the transportation device, but also it is part of the production lines or production equipment. So it's also very important to monitoring the status and also to link seamlessly between different devices, the upgrades of the production lines. So we can see the 5G will also be able to play a very important role in the dark light workshops or digital twins, and also applying with different technologies, utilizing high bandwidth, especially the low latency features that is going to be deployed in the near future. Okay, thank you so much. And this is the one I'd like to share with you. Okay.
Thanks, Leo. I think it's great to see CSN embracing the 5G technology. I think I see a lot of cases for greenfield, like the EV production, and also the existing warehouse or some logistic inside a factory. So if there's chance, definitely would love to bring the community to visit some of the factory in Thailand, in China, or in Singapore that you mentioned. Thanks again. Please check any question to you in the Q&A boxes. Just remind the attendees, please put your question in the Q&A boxes, not the chat box, because it's easier for the speaker to follow. So last but not least, I would like to introduce the final keynote speaker. After this keynote, we will have a panel discussion. Stay tuned. So here we have Fatif Unapanna, the principal engineer from Qualcomm. So Fatif, he's going to share you about a real experience that they are deploying in Bosch Westhoff industrial 5G factory in Europe. So Fatif, can you open your camera and share your slide?
Sure. Thank you, Terence. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, let me share it. Okay, that's good. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, as Qualcomm, we've been developing 5G technology with other industrial partners, technology partners like many other 3GPP partners. 5G specifically address industrial use cases, and I'll be talking about a trial that we did with Bosch Rexroth on this industrial 5G communication. Let's see. Okay. Yes. As you may know already, 5G started in 3GPP release 15, and that addressed the basic foundation of 5G. Addressing smartphone use cases, eMBB is the main focus in that particular release. Next release of 5G, release 16, completed somewhere around 2020, is the main release that has the features needed for industrial applications, specifically industrial automation applications. And it introduces many primitives like private networks, URLLC, time-sensitive networking, etc., to make it a suitable communication medium for applications needed in this industrial environments. Release 17 built on top of the facilities provided in release 16. And we are right now in the process of standardizing release 18, which is further pushing the boundaries of 5G into new domains such as XR, AI, ML. And we are at the same time, we are also in the process of coming up with what additional features 5G should contain. And we are in the discussion phase of release 19 at the moment. And if any of the industrial partners have ideas on what 5G should be able to address that is not, it may not be able to address in the current releases, I'd like to hear about that too. As I was saying, 5G release 15 and release 16 particularly is designed to address many different use cases. It goes from manufacturing facilities to big warehouses, hospitality, stadiums, actual hospitals, airports, any of the use cases. 5G is being designed to handle these different use cases. Specifically in the industrial domain and the factories, three main features of 5G, starting with eMBB, which is a broadband aspect of 5G, and URLLC, which is for reliable communication, and massive IoT, coming together addresses many different use cases, from robotics to AGVs to XR, AR, VR headsets, cameras and sensors, and many others. As I was saying, 5G, especially in release 16, has these specific features, which is a private 5G network, which enables 5G to be deployed independent of larger operators, Ethernet and time-sensitive networking, and ultra-reliable communication. Sidelink is also introduced in 5G, but I haven't seen that being used much. Other features are much more important at the moment. Another non-communication aspect of 5G is precise positioning. With this, not only communication is provided to the devices, but the device's location can be tracked by the system, allowing for better guidance and other facilities. And also 5G allows for deployment in variety of spectrums. 5G private networks, which is an essential aspect of 5G to be able to operate in enterprise or industrial environments, brings the operator class 5G down to the size of an enterprise or a factory. And it brings all the security features that operators rely on and all the optimizations that 5G uses for communication. And it allows it to be deployed as a dedicated network in a premise. As I said before, 5G allows for different spectrum options. On the left side is the licensed spectrum. That's the most common deployment option for 5G. And that's how operators normally deploy 5G, which owns the spectrum that they are deploying. On the far right side is unlicensed spectrum. This is essentially what Wi-Fi is doing, like 2.4 gigahertz, 5 or 6 gigahertz deployments, which 5G can also occupy those bands. And in between them is what's called a shared spectrum. These are bands that are allocated usually to some government agency, but that government agency does not utilize it all the time. So it allows for private enterprises to use those spectrum when the government agency is not using. And it's like more than 99.99% of the time, that spectrum can be utilized by the entity, private entity. And CBRS spectrum, for example, is one of those spectrums in the US. This is listing this is not a comprehensive list, by the way. It's listing specific bands and frequencies allocated in many different jurisdictions, specifically for private networks. And as you can see, pretty much every country, a lot of countries are allocating these specific bands, specific frequencies to enable the deployment of 5G in enterprises and industrial settings. As I said before, another important feature that 5G introduced is positioning, which allows the position of a device to be located within a deployment. And there are many techniques that are available and standardized in 3GPP for positioning. In this particular trial, we have used this what's called a uplink RTOA technique, which looks at the timing difference of the signal arriving from, transmitted from the device as received by the G node Bs. By correlating that timing difference, then the location of the device can be located. And I'll be showing some results of that at the end of the presentation. This is the architecture of the network that we deployed in Bosch Rexroth facility. It's based on a release 16 system, which we developed in our lab. Qualcomm normally produces the chips that goes into devices, UEs, and so on. We don't normally produce the network equipment. But in this particular case, since we wanted to push the boundary and do a release 16 trial, which is not really available from the commercial network vendors at the moment, we have a lab system which implements release 16 system, and we deploy that in the Bosch Rexroth facility. On the top, we have the network. Let's see if my glass is visible. Yeah, on the top, we have the network, the G node Bs and the remote radio heads and the core network, which connects to a Bosch controller and also a PTP Grandmaster. That's the one that provides precise timing reference for all the devices in the system. And they are connected to the 5G network through a TSN switch, which allows for TSN type of communication. And there are different kinds of devices that is in this trial. One of them is a AMR, a robot that picks the pieces and shows it to a camera. And then there's an AGV that's under the 5G system. This particular use case is looking at multiple applications running in parallel, all going through the 5G system. And the camera itself is using high-speed data. Of course, it needs to take very high-resolution images and send it to the controller. At the same time, robot is using a TSM communication where the data is time-sensitive, and also there is a high-precision timing provided to the robot. We were able to achieve 1 microsecond time synchronization with the robot and the controller in the back office. This is the picture of a trial setup. It doesn't show the G node Bs and so on, but it shows the robot arms. The AGV is the orange one back here, not very visible. The video, let me start and I'll be talking over that. So this is a facility in Germany, Salzgitter factory, where they produce some automotive parts. And that's where we did the trial. Again, on the top, so that's what happens. The robot picks up an object and then tells the controller, I'm ready. Then the controller instructs the camera to take the picture. Camera takes a picture and sends it to the controller. Then controller decides if it's a well-manufactured part or there are some defects in it. If there's a defect in it, it will be put into the fail bin. If it's good enough, then it will be put into the pass bin. When the pass bin is filled, then the AGV moves away from here. So, and this is a 3D rendering of what's really happening. We have used the Ethernet PDU for all this communication. The robot itself uses TSM communication, and it talks to multiple TRPs. That's what it was showing. So let's see, we'll be seeing the same thing in action right now. On the top left is the actual footage of the trial. On the bottom, we have the on the large screen, it is the rendering of the operation. So this is the camera taking the picture and 5G device sending it over 5G to the server. The other aspect of the trial is this AGV. In the case of AGV, we only looked at the positioning aspect of 5G. And AGV itself has ground truth data from the tape on the floor, and it reports its ground truth data. At the same time, 5G locations are calculated. It shows the AGV is moving along. And 5G location, the calculated 5G location is put as blue dots in here, as you can see. Then we can see how well 5G location, calculated 5G location, corresponds to the true location of the AGV. Okay, this is finished. In this screen, we'll be showing the performance data of the operation as the devices are moving around. We're collecting some statistics. Over here, the numbers are showing how many packets went through the system and how many of them were in error. And we essentially were able to achieve, in this particular case, very low packet error rate, like very close to zero, as demanded by automation applications in industrial settings. The graph at the bottom is showing how much time synchronization we were able to achieve. And as you can see, the middle line is 1 microsecond, and we were able to achieve timing errors less than 1 microsecond as required by the automation applications. And the bar graphs here are showing what was the cycle time, that is, how long does it take for one part to be inspected in this setup. And the blue part of each graph is how much 5G took in that process. So it was essentially a minuscule part of the all of the time that's taken by the whole inspection process. And this is the positioning aspect. Let me see. Yes. As AGV is moving, we are putting the blue points. On the right, you can see the actual AGV moving. Of course, there are no blue dots in there, only in the animation. And the errors that is between the 5G calculated position and the ground truth is shown in this plot at the bottom right. As you can see, the errors are somewhere from 10 centimeters up to 50 centimeters, 60 centimeters. Or so sometimes it's a little higher. And this is just a CDF of the errors. Essentially, we were able to showcase in this trial that 5G is capable of doing TSN traffic with time synchronization less than 1 microsecond error. And it can provide 6 nines of reliability. In addition to the communication, we were able to provide positioning of the devices, which all of these together can address many mission critical use cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatih. I think it's a very promising figure that you share us. So really looking forward how this could be applied in a real factory scenario in the next. So now let's move on to the final panel session. So I would like to invite David again from IMDA to join us, and also 2 more new speakers. David Mohali, I call him Dave, Business Innovation Lab Leader from Huawei, and also Sebastian Tan, Senior VP, also Head of Enterprise Communication and 5G Task Force from ST Engineering.
Hello, Terence.
Hi, Sebastian. Hi, Dave. Hi, David.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so I would like to just give Sebastian and also Dave, you guys could quickly introduce yourself before we start the panel.
All right, just a very quick introduction. Just let me share my screen. Yeah, just 3 sliders of ST Engineering Group, where I come from. So we are a global tech company and an engineering powerhouse for over 50 years, and we have offices across 30 countries, span across Europe, Americas, and also in Asia Pacific. We HQ in Singapore, publicly listed in Singapore Stock Exchange, and we are doing an annual turnover of around $8 billion annually. And we have about 20,000 engineers and colleagues that we have employed in Singapore, as well as another 3,000 or more, counting in the various part of Middle East and Americas to our associate companies. And we serve customers that span across very big spectrums across 100 countries. Now, basically, what we do in ST Engineering is we have 2 areas of focus: core business in commercial, as well as also in defense and public security. We are the #1 MRO in the commercial aerospace. So we do maintenance, and we do retrofitting operations as well, repair for the Airbus and Boeing's fleets. And then we do have satellite business, cyber, and we do a lot of business in the defense space for our marine and land customers in this space. So very quickly, this is my intro, and then back to Terence. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastian. Yeah, David. Dave, can you also quickly introduce what you are doing?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just give a verbal introduction if that's okay. Yeah, so my role within Huawei is I lead a business research lab that's looking at the future of the telecoms industry, and a big part of that is how we can ensure the adoption of 5G within different vertical markets. Okay, so key to that, we've looked at the kind of go-to-market, the business models within different industry sectors, particularly within manufacturing, healthcare, and stuff like that. So very happy to be here today and have a good discussion on this topic.
Thanks, Dave. So just remind the attendants, if you have a question, to the panelists, just put it in the Q&A boxes. We try to find time to answer, or we follow up offline. So just go to our discussion. So first, I would like to discuss about the technology. I think 5G is a very powerful technology, as we all see in the previous presentation. So it comes with a lot of features like eMBB, URLLC, and also massive machine type communication. And I think Qualcomm also show us some new advanced feature like time-sensitive network, very precise positioning. So when we come to this technology, right? So I know that you guys have talked to a lot of enterprises user. So any learning and key finding can be shared us. I would like to ask Sebastian first, as you guys as an engineering firm, I think you talk to a lot of customer daily. So let us know what do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Terence. Just to talk, as I shared earlier on, where we focus in terms of our business, right? We do have a strategy around for our business, not just for ourselves, but also for our customers. And one of the key capabilities as we evolve out of pandemic as well, also into the digital era, is looking into 5G, cyber, as well as sustainability. So 5G is one of the key pillars going forward for our ST Engineering Group to embrace internally for our various business that we operate locally and in the region, but also to put that into usage, where we would then share some of the lessons and also some of the experience that we acquired through the likes of 5G internally for our manufacturing business, so and so forth, and how we can then add values, as well as also share the know-how and also the TCO ROI with our manufacturing customers as well, so they can also leverage the good work that has already been developed through ST Engineering internal capability build up around 5G. Now, across the last 2 years, when 5G is being made available through the good work of the regulatory authority in Singapore, IMDA, where they issued 2 public license, 5G standalone license, and the MNOs, including Singtel, who's on the call earlier on, have rolled out nationwide 5G progressively. We have taken advantage of this startup, of this initiative to actually go on board to start adopting 5G. And we have learned quite a fair bit of lessons within how can we leverage on new cutting edge technology into our operation, so that we can be able to address some of the disruptions that's going around the world currently, still with the in the Europe, we're constantly still with the ongoing challenges over there, as well as also evolving out from pandemic, where we are now going back into life as normal, the transition. Now with that, I would just want to quickly share a picture speak 1,000 words. I'll just share a video that we have put together of our experience learned and what we are trying to do from a industry 4.0, from a factory operations that we have automated to the factory of the future, as one of our peers has just shared about connected factories, how we're going to evolve into that, so that we are able to then take advantage of 5G, right, to help us to further accelerate our production business, where we are into the high value electronic manufacturing business, right, with low mix into the high mix. Through 5G, we are able to perform agile reconfiguration to be able to address to different kind of productions capabilities of products that we want to be able to provide for our enterprise customers within Singapore, as well as also into the region. So with that, just bear with me, let me just fire up this and let me know.
Smart manufacturing and the factories of tomorrow rely on both advancements in technology and in connectivity.
Here at ST Engineering, we are pursuing both. We believe that the 5G-enabled factories of the future will deploy autonomous robotics, video analytics, and intelligent sensors to optimize and orchestrate every activity on the manufacturing floor.
As we drive towards Industry 4.0, we are excited to deploy new 5G-enabled capabilities in our own manufacturing centers, so we can experience firsthand the challenges, value, and impact of 5G in the arena of manufacturing. By deploying a range of sensors, including video cameras, environmental sensors, and onboard tracking devices, we get a deeper understanding of what is happening across the board, tracking and predicting the health statuses of our equipment and environment. Implementing high-definition network cameras, allowing for faster and more precise AI-enabled inspections whilst reducing the margin of error. 5G also allows us to better leverage AR and VR tools, increasing productivity and changing the way we work. It enables remote support and even collaboration across factories and even countries. Beyond this, we have wider ambitions. A digital twin of our operations would allow us to plan for new scenarios, test new environments, and change operations on the fly, all without having to stop productions or make physical changes on the ground. It would strengthen productivity, support more agile process configuration, and change the way we anticipate and deal with issues and opportunities.
At SD Engineering, we are co-developing new capabilities with world-class technology partners and developing exciting new solutions that can readily be applied in the manufacturing sector and far beyond. We believe that 5G technology creates endless possibilities for industries, organizations, and our partners as we transform manufacturing environments and the way we build the world.
Right. So I think I'll just give a quick answer to what we are trying to do with 5G. And what the video has put in is actually a live footage, a real footage of our factories that we have presence within Singapore across multiple sites within Singapore as well as in overseas. Now, our visions and our aspiration is to be able to connect all our factories together, that then we can build what we call a centralized SOCS, a centralized factory operation systems aggregating all our MES system, robotic systems, QC, QA functions all into one, where we can then able to optimize and uplift our staff, manufacturing staff, so that they can embrace new technology, attracts the younger talents coming on board to join the manufacturing businesses, and able to drive and be able to perform R&D in a more quicker fashion. And with that, we aspired to actually grow our manufacturing business, right, and capabilities with the use of 5G, robotics, and artificial intelligence to drive forward our growth in this area. Now, some of the key challenges as we move towards adopting artificial intelligence and then having 5G as well, right? We experienced that while we have our factory floor space already been fitted out, retrofitting, stopping the production lines is always very difficult. As well as also people talk about whether we have fixed network, fixed broadband access within the factory floor space already. We do have Wi-Fi. Why then we need 5G? Now, the use of 5G is not a local site and it's not within a single confined environment. For our use of 5G and 5G solutions, we are interconnecting our factory operations within the floor space into our logistics center outdoor cross sites, as well as also across the other factory area. Now, as we aggregate all the robotic solutions, all the video cameras, they are all wireless enabled. We have what we call the massive IoTs are all interconnecting into one, and be able to coordinate and able to operate in a seamless and coordinated manner through our management, our manufacturing executive system, MES. We require a very robust, licensed and stable communication mean wirelessly, so that we can put all this into one to perform remote supports. And that's where 5G became the right candidate of choice for us to embrace this vision going forward. And of course, going through that, another lesson learned is also the people, process, and tools. As you mentioned, as we showcase in the videos, and we're going to go through some our manufacturing process reconfiguration enhancement, as well as also enabling our workforce to be able to keep pace with the digital technology that's coming on board, how to operate robotic function, operate digital twin functions, as well as remove quality control and supervision. So all these are upskilling that we need to go through within our manufacturing business as we move towards 5G connected factories of the future. All right, thank you.
I think, Sebastian, thanks. I think it's very good, you guys as a user, to talk about the angle when you're adopting 5G, what are the journey and also the challenge. I think, yes, I think a lot of area need to develop, right? Yes, I would also like to ask the rest of the panel regarding to this area, I mean, technology adaptation. How's this when you deal with your daily customer? How's maybe over to Dave. From Huawei perspective, I think you have customer all around the world. So any learning and sharing from you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think as was mentioned in some of the earlier presentations, I think while there's a lot of focus on these advanced applications in the manufacturing sector, what we found is that a lot of manufacturing real world facilities are looking to maybe improve and optimize what they're already doing, and 5G can help do that quite readily, you know. So I think there was reference earlier towards the business case and the ROI model, and what we found with a lot of the early applications is that it may be things like video quality or quality inspections that 5G gives more flexibility and gives more of a return on a particular application that they may be doing already, you know. And over time, for sure, you know, there will be more and more advanced applications that will need the lower latencies and the very, very high bandwidths, right? But I think out the gates, what we found is that solving near-term problems is a good way to start, build the business case, build the confidence of 5G in the manufacturing sector. And then the other area, definitely, it's been mentioned multiple times, but it is really important from our experience, is kind of nurturing the ecosystem of application, OT players, system integrators, regulators, so that over time the manufacturing industry is seamlessly using 5G as a part of its digital transformation, you know. So that's not something that vendors like ourselves can do on our own, or our telco partners can do. So we have to kind of work closely with the ecosystem of partners to try and make this scale, right? I mean, I think, as we've seen on this session today, there's some fantastic examples of very significant value and very advanced applications that have been deployed. I think to scale these up globally and have a lot more of them, then this is where really the ecosystem collaboration becomes critical. You know, that yourselves, Terence, and the GSMA are driving, as well as some other groups, but that to me is something that has to continuously keep focus and keep pace if we want this to be kind of dominant and long-term scalable within the manufacturing sector.
Yes, thanks, Dave. I think yes, you are right. So I would also like to ask Fatih. I think also a question come into the boxes regarding to the low latency. So I think you demonstrate a very good latency down to single digit, right, in the trial. So what exactly this use case will require such low latency? I think right now NSA mode also can deliver maybe up 10, 20, you know, this kind of a millisecond latency.
Yes, thank you, Terence. Well, there are a couple of aspects that the industrial applications need. They definitely need low latency, but they also need what is called a guaranteed delivery. So within that latency budget, they want the packet to be delivered with very high reliability, usually 6 nines of reliability. And regular wireless communication systems is not capable of doing that. Either you have high reliability with larger latency, or low latency with less reliability. So what 5G, especially in release 16, ULLC features has done is providing this low latency with very high reliability, which is a must for automation applications in the industrial sector. Because one of the packet goes, then that particular product may not be produced properly. They cannot afford packets missing in the environment. And packet reliability and latency is one aspect of it. Another aspect is precise scheduling of these packets. not only packets should not be lost, but they have to arrive at the time that they need to be arriving. So that's another aspect that 5G has worked on to provide that, again, in release 16. Another very important aspect is time synchronization over 5G. Before, the industry uses usually PTP or some derivative of that, like 802.1 AS, to provide time synchronization. And 5G has standardized how to carry that timing information over 5G. And that's, again, another very important aspect that these devices need. So 5G provides all these very powerful features, especially in the release 16. But these features that is needed for a full 5G conversion of a factory are specific to industrial use case. So the main challenge I see is that these features are not needed by regular public operators. So the implementation of these features has to be driven by the industrial demand. And right now, as far as I can see, the industrial factories and industrial companies are tiptoeing into 5G. They're not, of course, jumping into 5G. They have to see the value proposition and all those things. At the same time, technology providers like Qualcomm, Huawei, and others are looking at, okay, where is the demand? So there is this chicken and egg problem that it essentially slows down the progress of the deployment. And hopefully, in the near term, this chicken and egg problem will be resolved and the concrete demand will materialize, and these features of 5G will be available and deployed in the factories.
Yes, thank you. I think, yeah, we're all working very hard to solve this egg and chicken problem. Yes. Yeah. So let's move to the next question. So I think I would like to talk about the mmWave. I think it's very important for private network for mmWave. But recently we also come across some negative news about mmWave, such as Korea. I think Korea government just shortened the license period for SKT for 6 months, and also taking back the KT and LG UPS license. But I think recently they also talk about that they will reissue the license for a new operator. So it really confused us about whether we're mmWave development, because it looks it's a very great technology, but looks like the adaptation is not yet up to certain standard. But so I would like to ask Dave, as a Huawei, I think you guys also work with a lot of cases. So we would like to hear about you guys on the understanding of mmWave. So
Sure.
what any misperception about mmWave, and also any success about mmWave's deployment?
Yeah, no, for sure, Terence. Yeah, I mean, I think as everybody knows, there's been kind of I guess slow uptake in millimeter wave kind of globally. There's been a bit of negative press around it, as you said, recently in Korea. I think part of the problem is a little bit of the chicken and egg that Fahid and yourself mentioned earlier, is that I think for sure mmWave has a very valid role as a part of the wider 5G rollout strategies, you know, both in the wide area and also in industrial enterprise settings, right? The benefits that it can bring around very low latencies, very high capacity, high bandwidths, absolutely has a valid role. It does then have some technical limitations that we all know about, propagation problems and coverage issues and stuff. But again, 5G was always designed to be a kind of a multi-frequency solution, okay? So mmWave really needs to be deployed in targeted select areas where it can add the most value, you know? So it's not a solution in itself on its own, but as a part of a wider strategy, it's a very valid approach, right? So as we all know, I mean, looking globally, a lot of the early 5G rollouts have been on the lower bands and more recently on the mid bands. There have been some examples of millimeter wave by some groups in Europe, very, very publicly in the US as well, with companies like Verizon and stuff. But they've been in pretty targeted area, in dense urban areas where it's adding capacity to the existing networks, you know. So it does have a valid role. So in places like train stations, shopping areas, stadiums, events, where propagation and stuff like that is less of a problem, it can solve some of the problems for carriers, okay? And with the way the data usage is going in the next through the 2020s, you're going to see millimeter wave deployed more targeted, I think, within the wide area networks. Okay. If we look at kind of where it has been deployed, obviously we know it's in the US. Some groups have done it within Europe. People are selectively seeing where it can fit into their overall architecture. You know, you see recently, I think in Spain, in Europe, the government allocated kind of 26 gigahertz band for private networks. Okay, so again, I think it's picking where you use it, right? If we look at the China market, right, the China market, again, we know started relatively early on this. And if you look at the 5G SA deployments in China since 2020 have been very, very significant, right? And they have been around mobile private networks. So if you look at a recent Deloro group report, they looked at China Unicom, for example, in the first half of 2022, doing about $500 million of 5G SA MPN deployments. Okay, so it's lucrative, it's very significant, but it's very targeted on a specific form factor. Okay, and if you look across the 3 Chinese MNOs, since 2020, they've done approximately 5,000 5G SA MPN deployments. Okay, so again, it's focused on private networks for enterprises, right, that can benefit from it. And so the volume of it, I think, is quite significant. But I guess we as an industry need to keep trying to build and show where it can add value. You know, I think again, coming back to the benefits of millimeter wave in the industrial and manufacturing sector, again, it's to work with our partners as to where that level of characteristics can be most impactful. You know, a lot of the early use cases in the industrial sector, it's not needed that level of capability in many cases, you know. And I think, as Fahid and some of the other speakers mentioned earlier, manufacturers are putting their toe in the water, they're trying things, they're trialing stuff, right? But I think as they start getting more into commercialization, you'll start to see more and more applications with millimeter wave kicking in.
Thanks, Dave. I think, yeah, really promising to hear you have the story around the world about the mmWave use case and also the commercialization, especially in China. Yeah. So I think I would also like to ask David. I think I know IMJ have tried the mmWave with the Razer, right? And any sharing from you?
Yeah, so I'll keep it short, but as per what David mentioned, right, what we've seen so far, millimeter wave isn't a one-size-fits-all. And so far, what we've seen is that there is a very specialized market for millimeter wave, very specifically where there's a high data uplink requirement, which can't be fulfilled by midband, plus the need for mobility. So the most prevalent one for us in Singapore, where millimeter wave is a must, is in our ports. So in our ports, you know, we've got this rubber tie gantries, and they move up and down, right? And today they are remotely operated through a command center. And guess what is lined up between the link between there? It's a fiber link. And that is very inflexible. And if you want to have an uplink of about 100 megabits right down to your command center, midband isn't going to cut it. You can do dual aggregation of midband, but millimeter wave is the answer. So that's one proven use case for it. I think Dave also mentioned, I think in Korea, they use it as a Wi-Fi backhaul for their subway stations, right? Their subway trains, they use it to supplement the Wi-Fi backhaul. So those use cases are where we see millimeter wave playing a role. And when it comes down to semiconductor, say wafer inspection, and you know those semiconductors spin, and you have to actually use high cameras with high frame rates, the throughput requirements for those are also in the hundreds of megabits. So again, very specialized use case is where we see millimeter wave, where I think there's potential to what Fatih shared earlier with the whole time-sensitive networks with positioning. I'm interested to see whether with the use of millimeter waves, whereby the positioning accuracy can be even brought down further. I think with Fatih, the use case, you said you averaged out to about 28 centimeters positioning accuracy from the truth. Using millimeter wave, would that improve the positioning accuracy? And that's really what we want to look at for.
Yeah. So yeah, Fatih, any things you want to add? with your success demonstration of how powerful mmWave it is?
Sure. Yeah, millimeter wave actually is a very interesting technology that 5G has introduced. It has lots of benefits, very high bandwidth, multiple gigabits, gigahertz is allocated for millimeter wave. There are, of course, challenges that it hasn't been picked up by the industry very quickly. But I fully expect millimeter wave to be deployed in most industrial environments or controlled areas like ports, etc., rather than public spaces, because those are the places that needs this high-speed requirements. Also, David was asking, in millimeter wave, can we get better positioning? And the answer is absolutely yes. In our lab, we were able to, not in that particular trial that I talked about, but in other settings, we looked at millimeter wave positioning, and we were able to get errors down to 5 centimeter, sub 10 centimeter ranges. So it provides better positioning, much higher data rates, and it also allows for much better interference reduction because of the beamforming used in millimeter wave that allows for high concentration of devices, each one producing lots of data or consuming lots of data, and still be placed in a small confined area. So millimeter wave has a lot of promises, but also has challenges right now. And as industry works through these challenges, I expect more millimeter wave deployment.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So now let's move to another question. I think it's good to have David here. Let's talk about some learning from policy regulator perspective. So I think we all want to know with a lot of support from IMDA, right? What specifically you would like to suggest for the policymaker when they're doing 5G, how they can reduce some step that IMDA can share?
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it short. So for us, 5G, when we looked at how we want to support the cost of 5G adoption, we actually asked a very hard question. What is the business use case for 5G?
Yeah.
Or if Wi-Fi or 4G can support that use case, then you don't need 5G. I think we need to be very cognizant in terms of making that call, else it would be, oh yeah, everything can be addressed by 5G. So the way we started our program, I think I shared earlier, we actually did quite a bit of research and I would say translation work with a lot of the IHLs. I would call it phase one, where teams like A-Star coming in, I2R, all the IHLs were involved in testing some of the concepts, we call it, or where 5G can be used. And that's just the first step. And the second step was actually take that concept we have and actually validate and test this in a trial or lab environment. Again, these are not defined open live test, but this is in their closed lab environment. We would test that and actually make sure that we understand what is required and do the somewhat industry validation. And we don't do this in isolation, just with IHLs. We bring in the industry who understands the requirements and how the use case would be applied. Because if it doesn't transform how the industry is supposed to do the work, then 5G may not be the answer. I think like what Sebastian shared, in AMR use cases, once you hit a certain number of AMRs on a factory shop floor, Wi-Fi is not a valid option. We also know when we talk AR, VR, once you want to achieve it for precision surgical navigation, the latency factors which you can get with Wi-Fi and guaranteed, it's not going to be achievable. So we actually ask, is this going to transform how you do your work? So a lot of that testing would be done with industry and labs. And then after when that's done, we then put it into the open live test bits. And in Singapore, like I shared, we've got 5 open live test bits. And I think here at this point in time is more to validate the solution and refine it such that you know which are the solution partners you want to use. How is it going to work with your business case? Because now you've roughly got a solution, now you need to make sure that the business case can flow. And we encourage all our grantees to actually leverage the open live test bits to do that before then finally phase 4 is applying for the grant. So we go through all these steps with all our grantees, whether you're a tech provider or whether you're an end user, purely because we want 5G to be transformative and not just a means of providing data connectivity.
Yeah, thanks, David. I think it's very structural, very visionary to see how 5G can distinguish from existing technology, right? I think just like to ask the panelists any more expectation or any good learning when we are seeing around the world what kind of policy or what kind of government work can help. Sebastian or Dave, any comment, any suggestion?
No, I think as what we have just mentioned, everybody have alluded to these ecosystems. For 5G, it's no difference. 5G cannot operate on its own as a technology. It has to have its ecosystem. A very good example of the partnership there in Singapore, where we aspire to be the world leading 5G ASEAN nation. The government has put in a calibrated steps to help to do trials and also industry adoption. I think that very help to break the barrier in terms of ROI, the return on investments, right, for the business to adopt new technology where we need to sweat the old assets. And also it's also very difficult to disrupt the norm. So our view is we cannot rip and replace. 5G will be, as what David has just mentioned, we will take that first step out to really put in the adoptions of 5G in certain use cases that is good for a start, and it propagate later on into the other operation. And our lesson learned is from 5G itself, right? It is not IT. It doesn't really the values of 5G for IT platform rather than OT will be a bit lesser. So that's what we mentioned. So from an operation front, we really need the low latency comes into play. The fleet management for those cutting edge productions, right, where we really needs to bring down to the microseconds matters. And which what David has shared, and also Fatih has shared some of those examples. So that's our real life cases when we went through our journey of assessing and putting a justification for why not Wi-Fi and 4G and why do we need 5G. So when we went to, as I shared in the video earlier on, went to different trials and pilot ourselves. And then after that, we come up with what the business wanted to do, how we can then use 5G to help us make it a more effective, agile, and quicken our time to change, to go to market. I think that drives that whole conversation going forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sebastian. Dave, anything to add?
Yeah, one quick comment, Terence. I mean, I think one of the focus areas for the Huawei Asia Pac team in 2023 is to work with our telco partners or ecosystem solution partners for repeatability and standard packages and offerings. So we're trying to move to this phase of scale and repeatability, so we can ramp up what we've learned in China and in other markets. And that comes with its own set of challenges for sure, but that's going to be our focus for this year,
Sure. Yeah. So thank you. So I think just the last question and then we close the section. So I would like to ask these panelists about what will be the focus of the next 6 months, especially after the POC. Fatih, I think we all want to know what would be the commercialization plan for this great technology. And then, of course, other speaker, you can also share us about what are the focus of you on the coming 6 months, for example, or any learning from today's session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Terence. Yeah, we have shown actually in that Bosch trial, release 16 5G system. We've done another trial with Rockwell in the United States with Verizon and Ericsson, a release 15 system, and to showcase what a release 15 system could do in an industrial setting. Of course, release 16 is more capable. It can address more applications. Now, going into the future, we have two sets of activities, two streams of activities. First stream is commercialization, of course, taking these features and making them commercial, enabling actual use cases and getting them deployed in the industrial. And we discussed that before. There are some clinic problems there. We're working to resolve those things. It's taking some time. In parallel, we're also working on what is the next version, 5G Advanced, release 17, 18, and now we're discussing release 19, and also 6G. So what features are needed in the futures of 5G? We're looking at technologies such as ultra-low power communication and sensing, that is identifying the objects without a UE in there, using essentially 5G or 6G system as a camera system. And also energy harvesting, enabling a new class of devices such as batteryless communication devices. So those are the technologies that we're looking into, what should be coming into futures advance of 5G and 6G.
Thanks, Fatif. The other panelists, any closing remark, or what are you going to focus on next 6 months?
Yeah, maybe I'll just add a quick note. So I really appreciate what Fatif has shared and the work which he's done in time-sensitive networks. I think that's an area of interest for IMD here in Singapore, purely because we know that with time-sensitive networks, private networks really become essential because the level of integration on the 5G core within the enterprise space is needed. It's not just the UPF, it's all the other subsequent components inside there of the mobile operators or private networks 5G core will need to be simulated. So I think from our landscape, there's a lot of work to be done in Singapore for that, to make sure we're ready for that. So look forward to any collaboration which Qualcomm or your partners would like to do in Singapore. We'd like to encourage that. Thank you so much.
David?
Glad to hear that.
Or Sebastian?
Yeah.
Any closing remark? Yeah.
I think maybe I jumped the gun on my closing remark, Terence, but I think it's as I said, it's the repeatability and the scale is what we're trying to focus on. So
yeah,
that's where we're trying to package up and work with our partners now so that we can have a wider portfolio with faster time to value for targeted solutions. You know, any new solutions obviously need to be grown like we've done in the past, but this this showing the benefit of multiple applications quickly in an industrial setting is critical, you know.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Dave. Sebastian?
Yeah, thank you, Terence. From SD engineering perspective, well, this is for the manufacturing verticals. Our plan going forward is, of course, 5G is going through its continuous evolution and development into 5G plus and 6G, and we also hear about 5G NTN, so and so forth coming into space. But one very key thing is, I think it's about adoptions. So this is what we do, right? From SD engineering, while we have developed and also starting to embrace 5G into our operation, we want to productize or catalog such kind of capability and then be able to share into our manufacturing sectors within Singapore space domain, as well as also share with our fellow manufacturing community within the region, which already went out into Thailand and into Vietnam to share what we have learned and done here in Singapore and how they can quicken their pace, right? Avoid the pitfall and be able to help to adopt 5G in their manufacturing operations, leading from the work that we have already done within our company.
Thanks. Thanks again for all the speaker and panelists. There are still 10 questions in the Q&A boxes. So if you have time, the rest of the panelists, if you have time, take a look at the question, maybe stay 5 minutes here to help to answer some of the questions. It will be perfect. So yeah, thanks again for all the attendance. If you are not hurry to leave, you can stay to check any response in the answer in the next 5 minutes, and then we will close the section. Just remind, next month we don't have a virtual section. We will have a physical activity in Malaysia, supporting MIOTA, Malaysian IoT Association, for a Hypernet of Things event with 5G. It's a 5G catalyst for IoT development, for massive IoT development. And of course, like I mentioned, we will have a Barcelona event, MWC at end of the month. If you are coming there, let me know. We can share you some of the activity that you may be interested to participate or networking with our community leader. And then just remind, we also have a healthcare section around May. Again, working with IMDA and Auto Medicine Association and NUHS. So this will be healthcare focused. So hopefully we can bring our mobile, our ICT sector together with the healthcare sector together to deep dive into how we can work closely to accelerate the digital transformation in this healthcare sector. So thanks again for you guys enjoying the content for the, actually we overrun for more than 30 minutes, sorry about this. But looks a lot of questions. We have over 30 questions, close to 40. So it's quite a lot of questions. It looks like you guys really need a lot of support on this 5G development. I think all are very good questions. So thanks again. Okay, so let me check any question outstanding. Mark already left, so we will pass the question to Mark to follow up. Okay, I think some of the rest of the question is all ROI, business model. So I think these are all very relevant questions. I think in reality, of course, we do see 5G can be start from small scale. I think Leo already mentioned how they support the great field area to start the 5G deployment. Not necessarily with the whole factory coverage. It can be start from 1 or 2 use case first and then expand into scale. It's because once you have a wireless fiber, right? Once you have the wireless fiber, you can adopt more application, but you can start from small, not necessary to have a whole factory to cover with the with the 5G. Just certain area you can start it, right? So the ROI could be justified as we all learn from the pioneer why they're doing this. Of course, they already justify the ROI first, right? And of course, we do see some large project. Government support is very important because they jump from scale quickly. Yeah, so these are all different scenario. Really depends on who is your customer, how much money they are willing to invest. So I think this is flexible for the 5G deployment. Yeah. Just remind 5G also have the network slicing feature, which means that you don't necessarily deploy any 5G equipment in your site. You can leverage the mobile operator infrastructure, and then they can guarantee some of the service level for you that you can start enjoying the benefit of 5G. If you still have any other question, just reach out to all the panelists because we already shared their LinkedIn profile. You can, of course, you can reach out to me. Of course, I can connect you to different experts who can help you in technical side, commercial side, or policy side. I think, yeah. Also in different countries, of course, not only Singapore. Our community covering more than 30 APAC market already. So yes. Okay. I think, yeah, I think that's it. Okay, thanks again for all the panelists, all the speakers, and all the attendants who still stay behind with us. Is also with 60 people. Very, very encouraging. So hopefully see you virtually and physically very soon. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you, Terence. Thank you all.
Bye
Thanks a
bye.
lot. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.